This has been a ridiculous amount of time in the making. I think even emotional having you on here. This is just I've wanted this for so long. Eartha Pond, welcome to Listen Loudly. I have admired your work for so long, and I know that a post that you put up this year was, I'm just getting started. I'm just getting started. And I love that so much. Please introduce yourself and then we'll get into it.
Well, firstly, thank you for having me. And I always like having great conversations with genuine people. So also I've been waiting to be part of this podcast to be able to share the platform with you and just kind of kick it with someone that I know is integral in what they're doing. So thank you. I always get stuck when people say introduce yourself because I do so many things, but I guess for me, I run the ESP Foundation, so I'm a charity founder, and ESP literally stands for my initials, which we'll definitely get into, but also the three areas of work that I do. So education, sports, and policy. And yeah, someone says an entrepreneur, but for me, that carries like money, and I'm not driven by money. So I guess I'm just someone who's just like a community activist who gets things done and just likes navigating and problem solving.
We were, just before we pressed record, we were trying to figure out when it was that we first met. And my jaw dropped to the floor actually when you reminded me exactly of the setting in which we met. Would you like to just brag on my behalf, please?
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking back, like when was the first time? Because obviously we've done so many great things together, but it was when you were hosting an event for the LTA. Serena Williams, the goat, was over doing an event, and I was always asking questions. I was definitely making sure I met Serena that day. But yeah, you've done a fantastic job, and I think our sort of friendship just built on from there. But yeah, fantastic, well done, and you've just gone up and up and up. Like I didn't think you could get any higher than Serena, but you've just carved out your own area of excellence, right? And just doing your own thing. So that's great to see, and yeah, feel super proud to be part of that. A little dot in that journey for sure.
I remember meeting her and she was just like this goddess. Like when I saw her in the flesh, I was like, oh wow, like I think I'm in love with you. I was just like, she was yeah, like a goddess. And so yeah, I'm so happy that you remember that was the day that we met. I remember having a conversation with you about sports bras and getting them to young girls because not having them were a barrier to them participating in sport. And I think we had such a deep conversation about that because at the same time, I remember sitting in a meeting and we were doing an event. The sort of giveaway for participating in this event was a sports bra. I remember sitting in the room and some people were saying, what's the big deal? And it was a real eye-opener for me of if you've never been in that position where something like a sports bra would be a massive deal to you and really exciting, how are you able to see what it is that people need when it comes to access to sport or access to anything? And so I remember when I met you and we were having this conversation about getting sports bras to young girls because it was a barrier to participation in sport. I was like, Eartha gets it. Eartha gets the thing that so many people miss because it's never even entered their head. And I think that was the beginning of my obsession with you. To just know that you got something that is missed. And part of access to movement and sport and all of those things that are life-changing for people is understanding what those very, 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 very basic needs are and how they're not met so often, potentially because they're not even seen as a need.
Yeah.
Or just simply there's, no access to it. So that was my first core memory of us.
Yeah.
Where are you now with the access piece to sport or movement?
You kind of hit the nail on the head. For me, as I mentioned at the top, I'm an educator. So as a PE teacher, I see girls like coming into secondary schools with bright eyes and running through brick walls and wanting to participate before that I guess, level of puberty hits in and the barriers start to sort of kick in. And I've had, I guess, luckily enough, sport has been a vehicle through many other paradigms that I've been able to have access to. So I signed for Arsenal when I was 12. So playing football, like I was able to meet different people, go into new spaces. And I guess coming from the area where I come from, that's not, people don't really have that exposure. They don't really have that access. So I really saw the benefits in terms of culturally for me to go into different spaces, but then also in terms of the work that I do. I guess I was like, how do I get young people to enjoy movement the way that I do? And I guess as a PE teacher, I was thinking, you loved it, right? You were going to do it, whether it was rain, snow, but they haven't got that. How do we get them to just enjoy moving, not necessarily with a specific sport, but how do we get them enjoy moving and not looking at things such as breast bounce? How are we making sure that they'll just get into the start line? And for many girls, as they started to develop, sports bra was one of those key barriers that was like a non-negotiable. And actually, one time in our school, we had an Ofsted inspection, and we was actually praised because the boys and the girls at GCSE level were performing just like equally, and they mentioned in the report that they'd never seen that level of participation. But then it also reminded me that some of our students didn't pick PE purely not because they weren't good at sport, but they were battling with, actually, I need a sports bra to perform at that next level. And now my parents are currently struggling economically. They're not going to buy a bra for me to go and do a GCSE PE. So therefore, I'm going to pick another subject. And for me, that was like, someone's not pursuing their career or their education purely because of this resource. Like, how do we partner with some sort of organisation, or what can we do to make sure that actually we're in a school setting, we're nurturing young people to find their why, and there's these barriers that actually we can overcome with the right people.
Yeah.
So that's where I first sort of started the campaign. So I'd done a petition to look at how can we make sports bras part of a school uniform, like a recommendation. Because like I said, like when you start a new secondary school, they're like, get a pencil case with a protractor, calculator, like all the things that you need. But actually, there's never actually a sports bra, which is such an equal resource that's needed for them to participate in that lesson. So for me, it was about that recognition, but also just, I guess, just listening from the ground of what young people are saying and how do we get that into the right people in the right spaces. So like you said, in that meeting with the brand, and they're saying, why would such a small thing be such a big resource? Actually, that just gets people to the start line. And for me, that's the important part of the sort of journey, and I guess the push with that resource for sure.
What do you think it was that made the school that you were in increase that level of participation from the girls? What foundations did you set there? What was your focus? How did you direct that?
I think there was a couple of things. First, for me, was the importance was around just enjoying moving. So I always sort of ask the young people, what is it that you want to do? Like, there's always sports that I love doing, but actually, if you're the ones that are going to be doing it, how can we be creative? What's the things you want to do that's going to engage you in participation? And then it was around looking at the setting. So I guess factors such as weather and indoors and class sizes are like always important. So just making sure you match it to the young people that you have in that space. And then things that are barriers. So it could be, like I said, the sports bra was one of those big things. So how can we promote them and educate them on the benefits of it, of why you wear it, and actually the benefits you can get from participating in the sports bra. And then just looking at cultural things as well, like how is that maybe a barrier to, we had quite a high like Muslim cohort, so those sorts of conversations are like really rare, and for some of their parents, they've never also had a sports bra or a bra fitting. So it was like a generational thing that we were kind of building up and providing information and signposting for. So I guess for me, I was just super passionate. Like, I loved sport. I don't understand how people don't like moving and like sports. So I was like, guys, you don't know how great this world can be. Like, how do you not get it? Like, as a young person, like, I participated in every sport, I think, apart from fishing. Like, you name it, like table tennis, netball, basketball, athletic, like volleyball, wherever there was an opportunity to like play sport, like I was involved. So I was like, for me as a young person, like, and growing up and getting into teaching, I was like, how do you not love this thing? But then for me, it was about how can I also adapt and unlearn to learn that actually there are people who just don't enjoy moving. So, and I love a challenge. How can I find, there must be something that
Yeah.
you enjoy like doing. I remember one student in particular. So like she was a mute student, she didn't engage, didn't even answer the register on a normal day, but loved reading. So me
Okay.
as a PE teacher, like sanctioning her, saying you've got a detention for 1 hour because you haven't bought your kit. She's happy with that. She's going to sit down and read for an
Mm.
extra hour. Like it's brilliant. It's perfect.
Great.
She's great.
That was my plan, miss.
Give me that hour every single week. Like, and I was like, no, she's winning the battle. So what I done is I was like, she's still gonna do something. So I literally marked out a walking track. So she walked around our session and read. So she read her book and
Okay.
walked. So she's still doing some sort of movement, but she's
Oh
still
my
like
gosh.
reading. And like it was like great. Like even the students were like, she's out here with us. Like they were like, so because she doesn't even engage with them. Like she just does her thing and that's it. So eventually, like she even like started to do table tennis. Like one of her sisters, older sister's friends, done table tennis, and like she done a 1-to-1. So we literally just put a table up, and they just knocked up and just done their own thing. Like so, it's like those sort of small wins. That is like correct. She's not doing a full
Mm.
lesson. We're not gonna engage her fully, but she's active. She's finding something that she feels comfortable with, and we've sort of made some progress. So for me, I'm always like, how can I just push that boundary a little bit more? How can I find that thing that like works for you? And I guess that's kind of how we got our Girls Aloud program as well, where we have multi sports, like getting girls involved in like different activities and just enjoying movement, play, and sort of building community.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel emotional hearing that. I get very emotional about girls in sport, and here I am, I haven't got a tissue. But there's so much there, isn't it? And it's just that care, and also you enjoying the challenge of, I don't love that you're not moving, so I'm gonna find a way for you to move because right now you're enjoying reading. Let me let me get you to move and read.
Yeah.
And it just takes just an extra step to go, okay, this isn't working here. How can I make it work here? And equally, I recognize so many teachers will go into the profession wanting to make a change, right? And I'm sure so many come up against barriers where they're then just worn down. Um, but not only did you impact her to not only move while she was reading, but then play a little bit of table tennis, but there was also this ripple effect to all of the other girls being like, "Oh, wow, like, she's she's doing this," and that is huge. Um, and it reminds me of we had a program, so at Nike when we did Nike Training Club. Originally, it was just for women and girls, and we had this program in schools, for a period of time. I can't remember, early 2010s, let's say, and it was a bit tricky at first because there was a big training day, and here were all of our Nike trainers working with PE teachers, and it was a little bit tricky. We were there going, "Oh, why don't you do Nike Training Club? Your kids are going to love it," and they're a little bit like, "We're doing PE, we've got it sorted. Like, don't worry about it." Anyway, so that was a bit tricky, but we got through it. And then I went to one of the schools. It was a school in Blackheath, and they had got all of who they deemed the naughtiest girls in year 10 and 11. Interestingly, they got four or five boys in the year to motivate the girls. I thought that was quite interesting, that that they decided to do that. The boys were great, and actually they did influence the girls, and motivate the girls. Now, when I got there, I was like, "Oh gosh, like, let me make sure that this playlist is good. I need to be down with the kids. Like, that I can't be playing whatever dry music I listen to." So I got my playlist set, got there, started it was maybe like a 30-minute workout. 5 minutes in, miss, my legs are hurting, my makeup's running, I can't do it, miss, all of this. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then at the end of it, I was kind of like, I said to the PE teacher, like, good luck, see you, yeah, I hope it goes well, kind of thing. And then 6 weeks later, I went back because it was a school sports week. It was the end of term. I spoke to the PE teacher and I said, look, how's it going? How's the Nike Training Club going with the girls? And she was like, it is going so well. We've changed the timetable so they come in and they do it first thing on a Friday morning, so they're not worried about their makeup running. Two of them take 10 minutes of the class each week. They led the school sports day. with maybe it's a 1K run or a 5K run. All of the girls in the younger years can't wait to get to years 10 and 11 so they can do the same. And I was just, and that was 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And it still makes my hair stand on end to just know that they were put in front of me as the naughtiest girls in the school. I exposed them to this class and they made it their own. They led with it and they impacted the girls coming up. And I thought that just took a small amount of time from me, input from them to what made them feel good, and adapting it to their own. And again, it had this ripple effect that really didn't take a huge amount of time and energy on my part. And in fact, they ended up doing more work because they were teaching. Just wild to me how these tiny little things can have such a big impact.
Well, I can say I was one of those PE teachers that attended that training.
Were you? I don't know. As I was saying that, I was thinking, Eartha, was that not a bit of an? Did you not feel it was a bit of an awkward day?
Well, to be honest, most teachers just wanted to get out of school. To be honest, so it was great. It was great to get out, and we also ran the Nike Training Club stuff when we went back to school. So it was similar to what you were saying. The engagement was amazing, and I think actually that might even have formed part of the sort of Girls Aloud kind of stuff that I done in terms of after school. And we started it as an after school club, and we invited not only girls from across the year groups, but the dinner lady and the receptionist. So it was literally normal school teachers. Everyone came, and it was just a female space. And then I guess that's how we started to introduce the different activities and the different sports. And it had a positive impact. So for us, it worked as well. As I said, it's a little bit of time and attention to detail to see what worked for your young people. And I think this is where some people go wrong, where they just kind of try and have a broad, generic delivery and then just stick to that, when actually you've got to know your young people, you've got to know your clientele. Even something as simple as that we used to do at one time, we had a loads of young people come join our school from Syria. So just changing even our pictures and our words with Syrian text of key stuff so they could access it. It's something that, yes, it takes a little bit of time, but actually it opens up a massive world for those young people to access what you're trying to deliver. Like I said, the young people will lead. If you give them the opportunity to be leaders, they will lead. If you spoon feed them, they will also receive that and be spoon fed and not be stretched. It's about how are you making sure you're giving them opportunities to fail and just know it's a safe space to, I guess, learn from that and then be able to say, that was crap this time, I'm going to do this differently. But also just you just being there to be their cheerleader, because sometimes that is the only safe space for that young person. So how can you create it so that it's fun, they want to come back, they love being challenged, and they're building community and sort of friendships out of that as well. So that's always key in terms of what sort of we deliver, and I guess workshops and any programs that I'm involved in, for sure.
And so tell me, so what year or in and around when did Girls Aloud start, and where is it now?
So it started round about, I'd say maybe 2012. And like I said, it started as an after school club, just kind of getting girls into a safe space, finding different sports. And for me, I loved football. So but I also recognise some young people don't like going to a specific sport club. And it's about how can we build all of that into one space. So Girls Aloud, in essence, is a multi-sports activity with badass vibes. We have a live DJ, like you said, the tracks are flowing. We have a mixture of popular music, but then also cultural stuff. So some girls are recommending songs that we would never have known what they are, but in their household, or in their culture, these are big songs. So the DJs put on their toes to mix this with mixing that. And they sort of request songs and the vibe's just continuous, but also they have the autonomy to try different things. So within the space, there's usually at least 10 different physical activities that are happening at the same time. And the girls can either stay as long as they want at one or literally move between all the different activities. So it's about just finding something you enjoy doing and just and I was really conscious around having a mixture of team activities and individual activities so that, again, they can see what works for them. And it's about just enjoying movement. Currently, we are delivering
Mm.
in schools. So we have local primary schools who come together into one space once a week. We have over 100 girls every session, and they build those friendships. But also, what we've looked at is when they then transition out to local secondary schools, head teachers have been feeding back that their transition's been so much smoother because they've known a new girl from an activity called Girls Aloud that they went to from a different school. So they're
Wow.
settling in so much quicker because they've built this friendship. Even though they went to different schools, primary schools, they're now at the same secondary school, and they're like, "Yeah, that's my friend from Girls Aloud." And it's just like so beautiful, like to just see them have this like freedom, and especially little bits of detail, like where they might come with an older sister or a younger sister to the session, and then they come
Mm.
into this space and they're just like, I've got a new friend. Like I don't need to be with my sister anymore, and they just build in this sort of like confidence, which is really great. And I guess now the sort of breast and bra health piece is really important. So as well as the sports and activity, every young girl gets a fitted sports bra. So we do an educational workshop around different types of sports bra, the benefits of it, how you should be fitting it, how it should feel, so that actually they can move comfortably when they're with us, but then also recreationally in school, outside of school, just in normal general life, they have that sports bra as a resource that they can sort of go out and enjoy movement in. So we've had schools say, "Oh my gosh, we've had to start a badminton club, or we've had to buy ropes to do double dutch because they're just on it." So yeah, it's great to see we're doing what we
Wow.
are in our environment, but we're also just signposting like out to not only in their schools but then local like activities that are happening. So if they want more roller skating or they want more street dance, great. Here's a local youth club that delivers it, or here's the local like in the local sports centre they have it during this time. And yeah, for me, it's great to just build those partnerships as well, community and just like collaborating with other organisation. So yeah, that's
Mm.
been sort of really nice for us as an organisation.
And again, it's I'm gonna cry my way through this episode. Um, it's just that ripple effect from primary school into secondary school. Ah, I made a friend here at this great space that gave me welcome access to sport and to movement, particularly when, youth clubs, around the country are increasingly being shut. There's less thing for young people to do. But I think for me, specifically for young women, sport and movement gives them a confidence in themselves that nobody can take away from them. And also you're not pigeonholing them into certain types of sport, or one type of sport, should I say. So you've got team sports there, you've got individual sports there. There's something for everybody, and then even within their own families, they're becoming independent of their sibling because they've made a little friend. It goes out and it goes out and it goes out and it ripples and it ripples and it ripples. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it's so much more than just playing sports. So two other bits that just really stand out. Like one, like I mentioned, we have like quite a diverse set of girls that come to us, and the ones who wear hijabs, because it's a female only space, they take their hijabs off and wear like short sleeve stuff, and their friends are like, "Oh my gosh, her hair's cut!" Like they've been friends for like 5 years, they've never seen that like her hair, and she's just you can see
Mm.
her lighting up because the only place apart from home she doesn't get to show her full self. So she's like, yeah,
Mm.
this is like and you can just see her like beaming with confidence. And then we've had parents come and tell us, my daughter has told me that I'm wearing the wrong bra, and she's actually given me a bra fitting, and she's like, it should feel like this. It's meant to be like that. Um, so yeah, to have that like transition of like information, like they almost are ambassadors sharing that
Mm.
information with their parents. So yeah, those like things are absolutely priceless. Um, and yeah, it just happens naturally, which is great. So yeah, those bits of confidence
Mm.
building, yeah, money can't buy that for sure.
Yeah. And also those beautiful cultural crossovers as well. I just think that's so wonderful. Do you know what I mean? Just as women all mixing together and understanding that as a woman you're providing, you know, a safe space for another, you know what I mean? Like it's true. I'm not coping.
You're not well, do you know what's also really nice about it is, like, I don't know if you've seen, like, there's a lot of research that shows if mums in particular are active, then then their kids are more active. So we've actually like
Mm.
taken a step forward and developed Mums Aloud, because mums kept coming to us and be like, when can, like, I remember when I was young, how can I get involved? So we last in the summer we've done a Mums Aloud. So we had like just under 100 mums come, and they were like reliving their youth. So they had the same experience. They had the bra fitting, they had the bras. We had different activities, so we've done some consultations. So they wanted things like breath work and like other different things that we
Mm.
added in there, like step. And I'm telling you now, like, they have been banging on the door more than the kids. Like, when's the next session? How do we like? How come we haven't had another one and the kids have had one before us? Like, they're more in demand than the actual girls that we were working with. So yeah, it just shows that it's great to see like the transition. Like, you can see them reliving their youth, and like I said,
Mm.
everyone is female in the space, and you just see the diversity of the team also makes them sort of comfortable in coming into that space. So yeah, it's, I guess you have, I can talk about it, but unless you've like experienced it and seen it and been in the space, yeah, it definitely warms my heart every single time.
Even you talking about it, I'm just like literally bawling here on the sideline. Like just to, because I feel the same. I feel so strongly about movement and the impact that it has on young women, and you know, having confidence in themselves, but also particularly in this day and age where there is so much perhaps isolation through social media. And I know that obviously people connect through social media as well, but to one thing that's been a really that I've really noticed that I've craved more recently is just this in person connection that you just you don't get. You know, your cup never feels full after you've come off of social, you know, you don't have the same feeling as if you go and you sit and you be and you listen to somebody talk, and you know, you would listen to a Q&A after, or you have, you know, conversations with other people who attended. It's just a completely different feeling. And so not only to know, you know, if we think back to, you know, those early days when we met, um that there was less social media then. It was still present, but it wasn't as, you know, kind of big as it is now. Um, and to know like the need for it back then, but to bring that all the way back to now and give that and have that, and for people to have that experience. I think everybody does miss being in connection with one another, being in community with one another. It's amazing that the mums are like, "Yo, when is the never mind the kids.
Literally.
When am I getting my move on again?" You know, and for the kids to be saying, "Oh, actually, mummy, that's what you're wearing the right. Let me educate you." Like, I can't cope. It's too
Crazy,
good.
right?
It's too good.
It's like a full, it's like a full circle moment. It's like a full circle moment,
Mm.
and without even knowing it, we're almost creating our own ambassadors. So, and like employment opportunities. Obviously, started back in 2012. So, like, some of those girls that we first started with are now like over 18, and they're like now our young workers. And I
Yeah,
guess when we ask them like, why do you want to be involved? And they're like, I remember how I felt when I first started,
yeah,
like, and how amazing it was. So literally, when you see them like speaking and like getting the girls into the session, like, they're just as excited because they're like, that was me, like, just
yeah.
coming in, bright eyes, and they're like, it's gonna be great. So when you see them like leading the next generation, like, yeah, it's just,
Mm.
yeah, like I said, this full circle moment of our young ambassadors now, our young workers
Mm.
used to be that 8-year-old, used to be that 10-year-old that used to be in the session, and now like coming
Yeah,
back and like wanting to volunteer initially, and then now like I'm able to like employ them, like get them qualifications, and do you know what I mean? They're enjoying movement and coming from like a different paradigm rather than just participating. So
Yeah.
yeah, that leadership
Yeah.
piece is just as important.
Yeah, and they have so much, as you say, because they've gone through it, they have so much to offer
Hmm.
the young
Yeah.
girls then coming up and coming into it. What would be your sort of dream vision for Girls Aloud? Where do you want it to where do you want it to go?
Girls Aloud has the potential to go global. Like, I
Mm,
have no doubt, like, the impact that it has. Um, we've been able to scale slightly in terms of like outside of London, and every time it does what it says on the tin. Like, given the right
mm,
resources, like the right personnel, we have a minimum of 200 girls. And I mean, they're traveling from all over London in a time where girls are not doing PE, they're not active. We've seen all the data, all those
mm.
dropout stuff. They are traveling, I'm telling you, all from all over London to come and do not 1 hour, 3 hours of sport. They don't even want to do PE on a normal day. So what is in this
Yeah.
space that they're just so engaged? They make sure they turn up like every single time. And
Mm,
like I said, it's more than just movement. It's more than just play. Like the communities that they build, the like body confidence that they get, um,
mm.
and them just experiencing like going to new spaces and meeting new people. Like you said,
Yeah.
that bit of community, that face to face stuff that it is kind of with social media, like reduces those opportunities. So I'd love to be doing it like all over the world, like bringing community together. And that's, I guess, why I resigned from my job as a very good senior leader to be like, okay, I can do all this box ticking stuff in education, or I can run Girls Aloud and we can have thousands of girls like coming together and experiencing this thing. Like, yeah, our 1,200 students get to experience all the time, but actually, what if so many other girls can have this experience? So, yeah, that's sort of what drives me
Yeah.
to help build that. I'd love to do something like in the upcoming Olympics, maybe, because again, where there's like multi sports happening,
Mm,
like Girls Aloud is exactly that sort of space. Like, how do we
mm.
get all those different disciplines and girls to be experiencing that? Because I know a lot of like national governing bodies are trying to drive like that exposure and tasters. Like, this is a perfect like platform to bring that all together. So yeah, let's get Girls Aloud
Yeah.
global. Let's get more girls moving and enjoying
Yeah.
moving. Later on in life, it just becomes that, I guess, natural habit, right? And I guess from a local point of view, like from personally, like the constituency where I live, we have a 12-year reduced life expectancy to 1 mile up the road.
Mm,
So, like the well-being piece, and just looking at that data, like we have 1 in 8 young people, like people are leaving school obese. Like, how do we get them to enjoy like movement? How do we get them to find something that they love doing? So, yeah, it's about again not fighting what's already out there. I know there's a lot of stuff in terms of like online opportunities where they're not being active, but even in Girls Aloud, we have esports, so that might be like a break in between the
mm.
other activities. We also have like virtual reality well-being. So actually, we're looking at so many different ways, like VR headsets where they're moving, doing as well as, do you know what I mean, your traditional stuff. Like, it's about working with what's out
Yeah.
there, but really just listening to young people and finding the stuff that they're interested in.
And that's you again doing what you did with the young girl who enjoyed reading and quite liked her hour of reading that she was offered because she didn't have a PE kit. And so you're not keeping this to, traditional, in-person physical sport. You're making sure that you are expanding the access for everybody, which is again just you going that little step further to go, how can we make this even bigger? I love the fact that you want to take it global. I just it right. So I at the end of last year, um so obviously I, have been started off doing one-to-one, personal training. I assisted some football physios. I did a lot of sports therapy, all of that, enjoyed that. Then, worked my way up the fitness industry, blah, blah, blah. Then did all of the mentorship, all of that kind of stuff. Um, Now I'm at Peloton, and for the first time, I was like, how do I? you know, first of all, it was very, you know, shiny new space. I wasn't sure if it was going to be for me. And I didn't know how I would impact people. Could I impact people in the same way as I did when I was more behind the scenes, more in the kind of one-to-one space? Um, and I think now for me personally, it is a responsibility of mine to take my knowledge, to understand the impact that movement has on people, and to get that as far reaching as possible. It feels like it feels like a responsibility. So yes, I love my job at Peloton. I love I you know, the feedback that I get from people is amazing, and I love it, and I'm really happy. I never knew that I would have the impact that I had before I started, and that was a worry. Um, and I love that, and I will continue to do that. Um, but like I say, I can't sort of leave this world without giving as much as I can of my knowledge, particularly to those who wouldn't necessarily have access to it, because I know that it will have that ripple effect for them, and who, um, you know, who's in their life. And you just saying, you know, I quit my job because this is what I have to do. I have to take this global. And in my mind, it's an absolute no break. Like I'm like, well, of course it's going to go like what, you know. And I know it's not that simple, but you saying that reminds me of, like I say, the responsibility I feel to give as much as I can of of my knowledge, because for a period of time I thought it was, oh, I have to really be well respected in the fitness industry by my peers. Like that was the goal, to be respected. Um, but then I soon realized that actually at that level, how much are those who don't have access being considered, or are we just trying to make elite people even more elite? And
Exactly.
for me, that's where I sidestep, because I'm like, okay, well, you guys are all doing that, so cool, go and do that. But there's more people not working out than there are working out, that just have never. It's just they've either never been considered, like the room I was in, where who you know what kind of a big deal is a sports bra going to be? Actually, a massive deal. Um, and so I'm kind of like, yeah, the other way. Let's try and impact people so that they can have a ripple effect in their lives too. So
I
yeah.
think that consideration point is so important. I guess there's two questions that I want, like 2 points that I want to raise. So the consideration point also with the work that I do with the sports bras is like really important. So
Mm.
I was a very late bloomer um, as a child in terms of like puberty. Like I come from a family who have very well developed top halves.
Yeah.
Beautiful. They love it. Obviously, someone who loves movement, I'm like, I'm so happy I haven't developed in secondary school and I could just move really freely and enjoy sport.
Yeah.
Then one summer, I don't know, I must have prayed. I don't know if I was being really good at church or something, but I just developed like crazy. Like I joined the gang. The worst summer of my life. I was like, what are these? I don't want them. Like, what are we doing here? And as I
I
said,
was the same. I was like, ew. I
literally, and I
cried when
just
I got my
loved
period. I
sport.
was like, no.
Literally loved sport. Like this was not part of the plan. So, but I like I said, I loved playing sport. So I was always I need to find a way, right? So even at that time, so I was wearing, no word of a lie, I had used to wear two sports bras, bandages, and padding just to play a fixture. Like we
Wow.
are gonna find a way. Like the physio used to strap me up before the game. The strapping had moved by half time. I got strapped up again. Like I'm playing like the game. This is at the highest level. This is the Premier League I'm playing at, and that's me having to do all that. And I'm like, Another girl who gets to this level is not going to be doing all of this. They're just going to pack it in. So these are the things where I know the benefits of a sports bra. I'm like, I was
Mm,
doing all of this excitement just to participate. How do we get girls just like enjoying movement but being resourced like with the bra? So when you're saying about the consideration bit, I do always use this example, and again, Serena Williams, the GOAT. She's a big Nike athlete, doesn't wear a Nike sports bra. She wears a Borelli because they haven't, the bra doesn't do the thing she needs it to do. So if the big
mm,
brands are not creating a bra that works for the best in the world, Jane from Coventry is not going to have a bra that fits her. She's not going to enjoy moving.
yeah.
That's another big thing. Like I'm like, who's producing this bra that's doing the thing that's actually on the tin? We haven't quite got there yet. We have
Mm,
like we see Halep, Simona Halep, another had to go and have a breast reduction. The bra, like we're doing all of this stuff just to participate because we love sport.
yeah.
So what's happening with one, what we're creating in terms of product, that's another story. But again, what we do have, how are we making sure that those can access it to enjoy movement? So that's the
Mm,
consideration piece that's like always for me. But then the second part that I wanted to like ask is with all the great work and stuff that you're doing, is there something that's like always been like a barrier or something that you wanted to happen in like that fitness space that just has never still been cracked and no one's just put that time? There might be many things like time and attention, but like is there that one thing that you're just like, I don't know if it's financial or whatever the barrier is that's just stopping that thing from happening, and you know if this just happened it will just make a difference in so many more like people's lives.
yeah, I think the biggest thing for me and the biggest joy I get from coaching is really, um because this was something that happened to me. So when I was at university, I rode at university, and I was quite out of place there. It's a pretty wealthy university. Everyone was private school educated. Everyone came from a wealthy background. I was none of any of those, and my parents had recently separated. Sport gave me this sort of confidence in myself that nobody could take away. Um, I'm really intrigued by how movement and sport can develop confidence in an individual that nobody can take away from them. And I'm very process oriented. So I really enjoy the process of getting from A to B. When I coach people, I try to get them to fall in love with that process too, because I think when you have that, because let me jump over for a sec. With the fitness industry and often in sport, because we're seeing people often at the highest level, we associate intensity and sweat and the grind with sport and movement. And every elite athlete actually goes through a process, often that's laid out for them by their coaches and their team, that is 60 or 70% of the work that they do. And obviously then the bit that we see them participating in their sport on television or wherever, is that peak bit. And I think that the person on the street doesn't understand that and see that. They think that it's all just this fanfare, if you like. So for me, and I'm still trying to figure it out actually, so I'm glad you asked, how do I get more people to fall in love with that process of movement and that level of self reflection to be their very best, not to say like, oh, success looks like this, but to be able to operate daily in a way that they're like, "Do you know what? I'm good." One of my previous guests, Dr. Dia Grant, she works in sports psychology and, works with a lot of athletes. And we had this really interesting conversation where for many people, again, they'll see Olympians and they'll be like, "Wow, you trained 4 years for that, and you didn't even podium. What a waste of time," you know? And she's like, "No, no, like, when I've got them reviewing and reflecting and going through in detail that journey, if they were aligned with their values and their beliefs throughout that whole process, doesn't matter where they came, they stayed connected to their own truth. And her theory is that if everybody, um, you know, performed to their potential and, not even just physical, but just being aligned with their values, their beliefs, and acting and moving upon that, that the world would be a better place. Again, that comes back to our conversation about access and, how do we get people there in the first place? But I think it's this magical process once you start it, this realization of, wow, like I did that
Mhm.
without going, oh yeah, but to someone else that doesn't count as anything. And I tell this story a million times. I even said it on a panel this week. A guy I used to train said to me, Justin, this will mean nothing to you, but I can tie my shoelaces for the first time in 10 years. I'm like, I still tell that story. I can't even remember the guy's name at this stage. It was so long ago, but I still tell that story. And so for me, it's how do we get that magic that people have within themselves so that they can perform at their best potential? And I don't mean that in a fitness industry raw way. I just mean where they're like, these are the things that I would like for me. This is my process that I'm going to go through to get there. Let me honor myself in that process. That is what I want to get out into the world as much as I can. And I'm not sure how I'm going to do it yet, but that magic is, to me, is unleashing everyone else's power
Yeah.
without sounding too cheesy.
No, it's amazing. I think you've hit the nail like right on the head, and I guess it's similar to what we try and do in terms of Girls Aloud, like finding that thing that can allow you to have that process and enjoy it. So, and maybe that's where they were, like young people ain't finding it, where they have like specific activities and that's offered to them. Like, actually, there's so many different things you could try that you might enjoy that gives you the opportunity to start and have that process.
Mm,
And like people say, sport is very subjective. So it's down to like in terms of when you're getting to the elite level. But actually, how do you get to a space where you just love it? You're doing your best, like you're hitting milestones, and that's enough. Like
yeah.
if you do get on and you, like you said, you medal, you podium, or you get that selection, then brilliant. But actually, you found that thing that you enjoy, that gives you that structure, and also just from a well-being point of view, it's actually
Mm,
like benefiting you. And then there's other bits that kind of come to it, like community, meet new people, different paradigms, experiences, like win loss. Like there's so much other things that build around that. And I guess like for me, that was football, right? That I was able to experience that. But actually, it could have been any sport because at the same time, when I got picked for football, I got picked for England at basketball as well. Because like when I'm
oh,
in
wow.
sport, I'm in it. But again, in terms of timings, it clashed. Like basketball, football was the same day. Like I had to
Mm,
pick one. And I started football first, and I loved it more. So it was like cool, it's an easy decision. But for me, it was always like, how do I continue learning in this space? Like, how can I like enjoy it? And like you said, it's about that access, right? So for me, I knew, for example, like fitness was like we didn't do like much fitness in like my normal area. So when I went to football or I went to a specific space, it allowed me to get to that next level. So then I applied to go on a like scholarship or go to spaces that I know that will give me that access to that next thing. But then, like, obviously now reflecting back, just being able to navigate those spaces and the different types of people, like, I wasn't educated to be able to do that. So actually, there was a glass ceiling, right? To as far as you, unless that person was like, they need to go into that space, it's subjective. It comes down to someone's opinion, and you get through
mm,
that door or you don't get through that door. And then you look at all the intersectionalities that come with that, right? Do you have that support system? Is there that person championing you? Is there that parent asking that question versus the adult
mm,
participant? And it gets like all of that. But outside of that, I worked hard. I knew my talent, and I got to the highest place I could possibly be with just being the best
mm,
like version of myself. So unless someone
mm,
opened that next door, I could never access it. But I got
mm,
as far as I could possibly get. I definitely got there. and just kept doing it and enjoying the process. And like you said, like I look back
Mm.
now and you talk about tying the laces, like winning the FA Cup. Like I don't even stop and reflect. I'm like, okay, where's the next thing? Like, where's the Premier League? Like, it's just the thing that's part of the process, right? It's just part of what you're doing. But I guess now when I look back, it's like actually they're like really big achievements, and like in the bigger,
Mm.
it's like seen as something. It's a really big milestone, and I guess like a key moment of mine was obviously where I live is in Queens Park, one of the top like 5% deprived areas in the United Kingdom. I remember
Mm.
someone saying like, "Oh, I saw you on the TV, like playing in the FA Cup final." Like I was in my prison cell, and they were like, we were knocking the cell. I was like, okay,
Wow.
different setting to be like celebrating something, but that's their reality. Like normal, like other people might have like family members in the crowd, and we've got a family's got a coach down to watch it. Like these are
Mm.
like these are our starting point. So for me, like in everything that I do, and like you said in terms of that process, like how do we even get them to just be on the start line? For a lot of these young people, they're not even in the stadium, let alone starting the race.
Yeah.
How do we get them on the start line and say
Mm.
run the race? Like then
Mm.
it's up to them, right? If they win, if they finish, if they don't finish, if they pull their hamstring en route to the end, like, but they're not even starting the race. So that's the important bit. Like, how do we get them to experience those processes, those structures? Like, they're not even getting there, like you said. So
Mm.
similar to yourselves, I'm still trying to work out what's the best way. And then I realize
Yeah.
as well, it's going to be different for so many different people and in different spaces. So how much time, how much energy have you got to even be able to facilitate that? And then just remembering you're human as well, right? You've got your own
Mm.
expiry date. Your life has an end date and a start date as well.
Yeah.
So keeping that in mind, that do you know what I mean? You've got to do stuff for yourself as well. So that's the battle.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I never feel like I'm winning, but hey, we move.
Yeah. But you're so right. There's so many pieces to that. So it is, yes, if you've got this, let's say you got your foot in the door. Yes, you've got this talent. Let's say, at your level in football. Um, and then it's the navigation of new spaces in environments that you have had very little or no experience in. And that was the thing for me at university. I didn't have that financial support structure, that at that time family support structure, just because my mum and dad were dealing with their own stuff. And so I was swimming underwater thinking I was keeping up, like mask and everything, being like, yeah, I'm great, everything's fine. And there was one lady at the university that I went to that was able to assist me with some financial support. I'll never forget her, Jackie Accarelli. She was this amazing woman. But there are so many pieces to the puzzle. There is so much more required to, first of all, give them access, then make sure that they're supported in a certain way, um, then allowing them to navigate, enabling them to navigate new spaces. It's like that there are roadblocks at every step of the way. And even I went to a talk. Do you know Lamara, who was formerly at Murky Books?
No, but
Um,
she seems like someone I need
uh,
to know.
yeah. Well, I went to a talk of that she hosted last year, and there was this brilliant young woman there. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, but she was doing a lot for young women and getting them into football. And the discussion there was around, is it football cages?
Okay,
Is that
yeah,
is that the right,
that's the
where
thing.
the kind of small spaces where
Yeah,
people are training and playing football? And there's this certain one somewhere in London where the talent that's coming out of it is phenomenal. But what's then happening is that people with money are then driving however long to get to these spaces for their children to then flourish in the same way. So you have this sort of influx of privilege in a space that is, underprivileged, where actually they're given the time and the access and the focus and the attention to actually thrive. And then like I say, you get this influx of people trying to, you know, get a piece of the pie. So there are so many different levels of protection also required within that, because I suppose when you get to a certain level, then people want a piece of you, or they want a piece of that pie. There are so many, different barriers to moving it all forward. So it is a real challenge.
Yeah.
And as you say, there's only one you. So it's like you also need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself whilst you're trying to do the work that you're doing.
And yeah, 100%. And like we're only talking about the sports side of things. I haven't even got to education or being a local councillor. Like I chair my local constituency. I've been elected for 11 years. So
Yeah.
this is just the sports side of like time and energy. And
Mm,
I think one of those bits is definitely cultural competency. Like how are
yes.
people like culturally competent to understand like people that are coming into the spaces, and it's not like a lot of the time it's like D&I and it's about like diversity. For me, it's about equity. Like what does that
Mm,
person need to access that space? Like
yeah.
I'll give you one example. When I first got selected for England, when I was 15, went away to my first training camp. And actually, the week before that, I'd been filming a advert with Pepsi before the men went away to the World Cup. And I think I can
Mm,
remember if David Beckham or Michael Owen. They arrived in a helicopter to the training ground where they were the team base where they were meeting, and that's where we were shooting the Pepsi advert for the week
mm,
before I went away. So the week after, couple of weeks after, I went away to my first England camp, and like it's the first time I'm in this space. There is no one that looks like me, but it's fine because I'm not like that's normal, like in terms of
mm,
football. Um,
mm.
and we done some like testing and stuff, and like basically the head coach called me aside and asked me a question, and I basically like answered it, not knowing like this very like dictatorship in this space, and like you don't answer. But where I come from, in my environment, you have dialogue,
Mm,
like you navigate things,
mm.
like you conversate with adults in that space. What they say goes, and you don't conversate, and it
Right.
is what it is. So again, from an educational point of view, knowing how to navigate that space, as me as a young person, like a child, 15,
Mm.
like I was never called back because I had that conversation. So forget about
Wow.
how talented you are. Forget that you're playing at the highest level. Forget that you have this potential. Actually, no, you are against the grain. So, but again,
Wow.
as an older person, you're reflecting. You're like, number one, there's no grace because you're a young person. Number two, you don't understand like where these young people are even coming from. So how are they navigating these spaces? And
Mm,
it's just like, again, just understanding there's just different things and different people, and you have to, you have to work in different ways. But so that's why again the work that I do around just kind of sports and being part of the FA as a non-exec is just knowing as a person who has all these intersectionalities, like if we're trying to have the best team and access for
yeah.
all in sport, we have to consider all of these types of things that the
Mm,
individuals are coming to us. Are we prepared for this type of young person? Like you're
mm.
calling them away to an away camp, like they might be in a household of low income, which they share toiletries and like you're
Yeah.
now bringing them out of that environment. Are you providing
Mm,
toiletries for this young person? Are you
mm.
providing all these things that are necessities that you just assume they'll have? Like you said,
Yeah.
that middle class young person coming with all the stuff, resource, and the other person
Mm,
who's coming from a very different area that is just as talented but doesn't have this piece. How are we making sure in this environment they are comfortable and they can thrive,
yeah.
not just having to
Yeah.
do the thing that we're having them to do? So yeah, so many different
So
layers,
much.
so many different conversations.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm tired of speaking about the same thing. Like, how do you not know?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
we've got to keep advocating, right?
Right. I've got two final questions. The first is, and I know we haven't even got to the breadth who you literally. I know that this whole conversation has truly around my passion of women and sport, which I've loved and have got emotional for about 2/3 of this conversation. But if you had all of the resources that you needed to take Girls Aloud global, what would they be?
A good team. I think for me, like just kind of building up people and giving them the opportunity to like show their talents. So
Yeah.
without that restriction of like financial resource and being able to just do the thing that they love, and going into that space. And then I guess just schools and spaces who are like open to doing the right thing. Like currently, like everything's done on whether it's like league tables or there's a box to tick because they need to do it. Actually, doing it because it's the right thing, not because it's like status quo. Like having access to spaces, and young people like would be like the two main things. And then I guess how do you drive that right? Who are the brands that's the thing they say they're doing on the tin, but in reality, are they really pushing it? Like, are they really doing everything? Like, not cutting corners? Because actually, the young people or the women or wherever it is that space they're trying to access is really like they don't put like profit over people.
The final question is, and as you know, the title of this podcast is "Listen Loudly." And I feel like there's probably a gazillion points in your life where you've done this. But when is the moment that you feel like you listened loudly to yourself in order to be heard by others?
Maybe when I was like ill in hospital, like sometimes when I've just been overworking and my like instead of stopping, like my mom always said, your body will stop for you. So I guess there was a point where I was burnt out without knowing I was burnt out because it's just like default. And I guess it was then I had to pivot and think about how can I be more strategic in what I'm delivering to have more impact rather than just like going, going, going. So I literally had to stick a pin and be like, this is not sustainable.
Yeah.
And yeah, what do you need to pour into yourself to be able to deliver, I guess, more efficiently the things that you want to do? So yeah, I guess that sacrifice just kind of went a bit too left and like running on minus. I remember there was one time I went to have some bloods, and my doctor was like, "Oh, you had glandular fever." I was like, "Did I?" It was like, "Yeah, wasn't you tired?" And I'm like, "Nah, that's just normal." I'm normally they're like, "Well, you definitely had it and you didn't know,"
Wow.
because that's how like that's your normal. That's you're operating at minus all the time that you didn't actually realize. So it's like stuff like that where I'm just like, okay, you've got to be kind to yourself to be able to have like the impact that you want to do. Like one of like my biggest mantra is like, don't tell me, show me. So if I'm well and I'm fueled and our programs or whatever I'm delivering is doing what it needs to, then people will listen very loudly.
I love that. I love that. And I feel like lots of people, certainly in um I guess the circles that I move in, so many people seem to have come to that, certainly in recent times, of okay, in order to do what I do, how am I taking care of myself? And I think that that's another process thing of, it's just trial and error. You've got to find out, you know, what works for you. But as you say, you understand when you are pouring into yourself, the delivery of everything is just so much better, and that's your sign. For me personally, it's a constant reminder of that. Even I've got a little page in my notebook, and in the center of it, it's just called a page to come back to, and it's just a little check in with myself, a reminder when things get busy. Am I even just taking care of one of these things? It's nothing fancy. It's not a big visual thing. It's literally called a page to come back to, or a page to take note, or whatever. and I just check on it. I check on those things that matter, and just I'll pick one of them and I'll do a little something in that, and it just kind of brings me back a little bit. So I think it's part of the work that you need to do, certainly for you to take your thing global and
Which
have
is
that
gonna happen.
global impact, which is going to happen. It has to start there with you, taking care of yourself. So, my gosh, Eartha, this has been so. I could literally talk to you, and we could have done this over a 3 or 4 hour podcast, couldn't we?
We gotta do it again. We've got so much still to kind of.
We've got so much more to talk about. We didn't even get to Councillor Eartha. I remember when I saw Councillor Eartha Pond, I was like, "Excuse me, sorry, okay,
Literally.
I see you." And then the whole education piece. There's so much more, but I know deep down to my toes that Girls Aloud will become global. It has to, because the world needs it, right? And I will continue to enjoy watching you do your thing whilst you are taking great care of yourself at the same time, so that should you have anything like glandular fever again, you might notice.
I hope so, but we also would love, and we can't wait to welcome you into our Girls Aloud
Oh
space.
my
Come
gosh,
on,
literally, truly, like, I'm ready. Like, you don't
ready.
even have to ask. Like, it's my vibe, it's everything. So, like, in a heartbeat, anything you need, anything I can do, I'm there. Like, I'm just,
Definitely.
you'll have to have a box of tissues, because obviously I won't be able to cope.
Let's do it. We're ready. We've got tissues. We've got water. We've got vibes. We've got whatever
Perfect.
you
We've got my
need.
sports bra and I'm
You've
good.
got your sports bra. We are ready. Literally, like we're ready
Brilliant.
to
I'm there. Oh
take you in.
gosh,
Let's
yeah.
do a Peloton collab. Let's get like the different activities.
Yeah.
Let's get girls trying new
Oh
things.
yeah.
That would be amazing.
Listen. That would be amazing. I would love that. Eartha, I could talk to you all day. Like I say, I've never been so on the brink of tears in any episode, and just truly thinking about the impact for young women who don't have access. That's huge. That just fills my heart. So thank you for all that you do. Thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast. I know that you are incredibly busy. So thank you for doing that in this beautiful setting with the foliage in the background. I'm here for it.
So
But
this is our local community like hub space where again back to like community work. So like we're doing some stuff here and then back to the local youth club and then
I love
board
it.
meetings this evening. All the great stuff. All the great
stuff. All the great stuff. And so thank you so much. This is just it's just another little piece, isn't it, in the puzzle of much greater things. But you have been a joy. Thank you so much for joining me on Listen Loudly, and I will see you soon.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.